What up, Space Fam? Gozen here from AnimeUproar, and I am back at it again to discuss the latest, craziest developments in the One Piece story. If you enjoy these One Piece chapter reviews and want to keep them coming, the best thing you can do is smash that like button and share this video. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe, and this is crucial, hit that notification bell or you will miss future One Piece videos. I set up a playlist of all of the One Piece videos I made so far about Yonko, Warlords, Worst Generation, and more, so feel free to check that out, link in the description, while you wait for the weekly chapters to drop. Keep in mind there will be spoilers in this video. We are talking about the latest chapter, chapter 981 after all. Now without further ado, let's jump into it. So what an unbelievable chapter this is. We start out with Luffy absolutely dominating the cover of Shonen Jump this week. We also have a Wano aka Japanese inspired background, including a samurai sword, the famous waves from the old Japanese painting, the Great Wave of Kanagawa, and a Shenron looking dragon as well. And with this epic chapter, One Piece definitely deserved to be highlighted on the cover. We also get a 2-page colored spread of the Straw Hats partying with some animals wearing shades. Zoro straight up fell asleep, while Sanji is the DJ. This is sort of like a Straw Hat version of what the Beast Pirates have been doing, partying and drinking. And I for one would prefer having Sanji rather than Apoo as my DJ any day of the week. This chapter is translated as engagement, and it is definitely engaging. Aside from marriage connotations, engagement means an arrangement to do something or go somewhere at a fixed time. And all these guys definitely have a date with destiny right now. If you'll remember last chapter, Kid got an oh so satisfying hit on Apoo. Apoo was making trouble for Luffy and Zoro, and Kid just wrecked him. Apoo was the one who sold him and by extension Killer out to Kaido, so there was so much meaning behind that giant metal arm hitting into the Worst Generation musician. We're told that Kid's strike breaks the very stone, emphasizing how strong it is. Apoo looks awful, his piano teeth are smashed, but we can assume that a Worst Generation pirate won't go down that easily. Like when the Yonko clash, Worst Generation clashes usually take time. Just think about how Luffy and Zoro had trouble with Basil Hawkins earlier on in the Wano arc. Still, whatever happens, that was one satisfying hit, although I half expected the hot-headed Kid to just keep punching him into a pulp right there. However, the slow Beast Pirates start to come around and figure out that Kid is not one of them. He is, in actuality, Captain Kid of the Worst Generation. Also, some of you rightly pointed out that I forgot to count Killer as part of the Worst Generation pirates present in the last chapter, but there's no way you can miss him in this chapter, where he definitely gets to play a bigger role, and we'll go over that in a bit. Counting Basil Hawkins, Apoo, Drake, Killer, Kid, Law, Luffy, and Zoro, we at least have 8 in the general area, which is 2/3 of the supernova and well over half of the entire Worst Generation 13, which includes Yonko Blackbeard. When you think about it, this is a truly insane war that will significantly shape the future of the One Piece world. Already we got at least half the Yonko commanders, 2/3 of the supernova, and the most skilled samurai among others. Not to mention, we'll probably have characters continue to show up. And Drake brings in the connection with the Marines and their possible involvement. This really feels like it's gonna be bigger than Marineford right now, and there is no statement more hype for a One Piece fan than that. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We get another Queen freaking out moment, and that's like his signature at this point, with his eyes popping out of his face, in contrast to the more stoic King, who I like to think of as Pterodactyl Batman. Queen's freakout is understandable though. Imagine thinking your territory is under control and then finding out it's quite the opposite in the worst way possible. Then we get Kid coming out with what he's been feeling, calling out the fact that Apoo's alliance with him was just a ploy. He calls Apoo Kaido's informant, pretty much his snitch, and nobody wants to be called a snitch. Interestingly enough, Apoo gets serious and honest. He's usually a pretty comedic character, but here he straight up tells Kid that believing that their alliance would allow them to take down a Yonko was ridiculous. He tells him to open up his eyes. Again, we see this gap forming between people like Luffy and Kid who set no limits on what's possible, and more quote-unquote realistic people like Apoo who can't even dream of beating a Yonko. And although it is crazy to think you can beat a Yonko, it's also only those people who have a shot at doing it. It's like that quote by Steve Jobs, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do," end quote. After all, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and that's why it is clear that people like Apoo will never be the Pirate King. While with people like Kid, Luffy, and Blackbeard, you never know what can happen. Apoo also tells Kid that pirate alliances don't have happy endings. Here is another part of Apoo's worldview that's coming through. In his mind, people will screw him over if he doesn't screw them over first. In this world, you shouldn't aim too high and you can't trust people. In this way, he's the opposite of Luffy, who is convinced that he'll be the Pirate King and who values his friends and alliances as much as anything. We know that Luffy wouldn't betray Kid, but we do know that Kid is paranoid now because of what happened with Apoo, and that paranoia almost kept him from joining Luffy. My fear is that Kid might let Apoo get to him and backstab Luffy because he fears Luffy backstabbing him first. I really hope that doesn't happen though, because I'm a big Captain Kid fan and I'd hate to have to hate him. I'm hoping that Apoo's words apply more so to the Big Mom and Kaido Pirate Alliance, which could, in theory, fall apart just as quickly as it was cooked up during a fight to the death. Back to Apoo, who hits Kid with a fighting music attack. The fact that Kid gave him the chance to also suggests to me that Apoo's words were really getting to him and thus distracting him. Clearly, despite our best wishes, Apoo still has some fighting music left in him. Despite the hit, Kid smiles and calls Apoo garbage, which gives me hope. Although Kid does have much more of a bad boy reputation when compared to Luffy, it seems clear that he has his own code of honor and that he equates betraying your comrades and being an informant with being garbage. Queen then straight up gives everyone permission to kill them. Although Kaido would want them to join his crew, Queen knows not to underestimate these supernovas. Killer tells Kid that they have to go, being the cool head of reason to Kid's hot-headedness, just like old times. It's good to see that Killer is back to normal and he no longer seems like that traumatized and lost person he was for a while. A giant coconut head with shades attacks with his huge spike club that seems to be bigger than Kid's whole body. This dude turns out to be Hacha of the numbers. These guys are comparable to giants in size and have horns. They're associated with the Beast Pirates, yet another part of Kaido's OP crew to worry about. However, this dude also shows that he has a drinking problem and that he gets out of control, which seems to be a recurring aspect of the Beast Pirates. As a whole, the crew is probably made up of the strongest individual members, but it's been emphasized that there's a lack of control and loyalty. We saw with some of the Flying Six that they're openly combative with the All-Stars and want to take their positions. We see that Kaido can't control his son, and we know that Apoo and Hawkins appear to be working with Kaido because of fear rather than friendship or true loyalty. This powerful crew may well be destined to go down like the Rock's pirates because they can't get along as a unified whole with a common sense of purpose. In the middle of the battlefield, an arrow is launched at Kid and Luffy kicks it out of the way before it can hurt Kid. He tells Kid to go and then we get some more of the hilarity that we got a taste of last chapter. We see Luffy blaming Kid for messing things up, even though Luffy was the one to first blow their cover. Zoro then points out that Luffy's not one to talk, and then Kid says the same about Zoro, who recently cut down a building and then blamed Luffy for causing a scene. Man, these kinds of scenes really are priceless. Then we have Killer just thinking about how ridiculous all three of them are, again showing that he's back to being the man of reason that he was before. It is Killer who has somehow deduced that Apoo's powers are not quite as OP as we thought. It's not just the sound waves from Apoo's fighting music that hurt you, you have to actually hear the music, so Killer tells them to cover their ears. And the ear covering combined with the distance they've reached is enough to avoid damage from the annoyed Apoo. Killer seems to have built-in protection in his mask since we don't see him covering his ears. What do you think of this Apoo nerf? Let me know. I personally feel like there had to be some trick to it, otherwise he would be near unstoppable, especially if he kept on strengthening his powers over the years. We may also get interesting implications in the future because the Straw Hats and their allies might have to fight some future battles without being able to hear. Right away, we get a funny scene where Killer explains that the attacks will only reach them if they can hear them, and if they can hear them, then the attacks are unavoidable. But of course, the other three worst generation pirates didn't hear a word because they have their ears covered. I really love this about One Piece, that even in super hype situations, Oda has time to sprinkle in that humor. As our 4 supernovas run, people get excited by the amount of worst generation pirates here and how they could grow their own reputations by taking them out. Killer, because of his failed smile, is called a pleasure by some of the bystanders, and we find out that he ate it because Orochi told him that it would give him a chance to save his captain. And wow, that just further increases my respect for Killer. Kid and Killer definitely have a great friendship going on, and they're both clearly loyal AF, which is a good sign. While Luffy tells Kid once again not to cause a scene, they are spotted by Who's Who. From up above, he recognizes them as Udon escapees. We were told recently that the Flying Six were all captains of crews, and so it makes sense that Who's Who has his own crew that he leads. The crew wonders if they should go help with the escapees, but Who's Who is more concerned with finding Kaido's son Yamato. He knows that's the biggest win for him and makes it clear that that's the crew's first priority. He also mentions that he doesn't want to lose to Sasaki, so he clearly views him as his biggest rival in the Flying Six. The theme for his own crew seems to be a cross between Batman with horns and Catwoman, since there do seem to be some nicely dressed and tailed cat girls at Who's Who's side. And again, potential problems in Kaido's crew are highlighted because instead of wanting what's best for the crew, Who's Who seems more concerned with beating Sasaki. Remember that Sasaki and Who's Who are both hoping to challenge an All-Star, and Queen mentioned that he'd erase one of the Flying Six last chapter. Now Who's Who seems to be responding to that, as he says that he also wants to wipe somebody out. Clearly this moment implies that they might have beef with each other, although there's also the possibility that they don't mean each other specifically. It definitely would make sense to go after Jack in my view if you had to fight an All-Star, because he seems to be the weakest link at this point, but if Who's Who is confident about going after Queen too, that's just insane how strong he might be, and by extension the muscle power that Kaido has within his crew would also be off the charts. Although Who's Who may even want to use Queen if it gives him the opportunity to get rid of his Flying Six rival Sasaki. We then finally get to Big Mom, who's been changing for a while it feels like. There is some confusion here. There's mention of a ship with Big Mom's family being in good shape. They should arrive soon, but there's also mention of it being strange that there's been no sign at the appointed port. There's a conversation going on here, but we only see Big Mom. Is she talking to someone or is she talking to herself and the split personality that developed when she lost her memories? Is this another clue that she'll work against Kaido? We'll have to wait and see. We jump to Kinemon. Since it seems clear that Kaido doesn't know about their plans, they'll change up their strategy a bit. Rather than the whole force going to the rear entrance, they'll split in two. One group will take a shortcut and pose as the enemy, while the other half of the pincer move goes around. They hope to trap Kaido and Orochi like that, although even the idea of trying to corner Kaido sounds pretty crazy. Unexpectedly, they realize that the 2,000 of them will have to cross a bridge right next to a brothel. The chance of not raising suspicion in such a scenario is pretty much zero. While Kinemon is worried, Sanji is overjoyed. We find out that the sexy giant Black Maria is the one who rules over the brothel, which is an interesting development. Hopefully we don't get in a situation where Sanji has to fight Black Maria, because that would definitely not turn out well. As Sanji is drawn magnetically to Black Maria's domain, Nami, Shinobu, and Kara-chan suggest that they'll join him as a search team for Momonosuke, so Kinemon doesn't have to worry about him and he can focus on the battle ahead of him. We see how much Kinemon's been worrying about Momonosuke, which is touching, but a part of me believes that Momonosuke will carry out his promise and find a way to escape on his own. I feel like that will be an important step for his development into a strong leader. Sanji comes out more depressed than you've ever seen him, and perhaps even more depressed than you've ever seen Usopp. The question in our minds is what could possibly have happened to make Sanji so sad. He reveals that he wasn't able to find any ladies. Then in a hilarious turn of events, we figure out that Luffy causing a scene actually led to the brothel being emptied out, so it worked out swimmingly. This feels like that Will of D luck that seems to be following Luffy. Things work out perfectly so that they can cross the bridge. They split up as previously mentioned, then the team with Kinemon and Chopper see that there is someone in one of the windows. As Big Mom herself opens the window, everyone hides in time except of course Chopper, who was pretty much an unwilling friend to her when she lost her memories. He even told her name was Olin. Just as a shocked Chopper makes eye contact with a mellow seeming Big Mom, we jump scenes again. Now the question is Is this gonna be a huge hiccup since one of the Yonko discovered them, or is Chopper going to be able to use Big Mom, or rather Olin, to their advantage? Perhaps some recurring head damage will lead to some truly crazy twists, but we'll have to wait another chapter at least to find out. But whatever happens, it makes for a huge cliffhanger. We then jump to the upper waterfall of Wano and we see Charlotte Perospero, saying he won't forget what King did. Remember, in what was one of the funniest moments in One Piece, King turned into his pterodactyl form and knocked their ship down the waterfall last time, so they couldn't make it to Wano. That's when Big Mom fell off into the water and lost her memories, while the rest of the family stayed on the falling ship. So this is take 2 and Perospero is pretty confused. He says that an alliance with the Beast Pirates is insane and he's questioning what Big Mom is thinking. The idea of sanity is brought up again, and Big Mom's unstable mental condition definitely seems like it will be an important variable during the rest of the arc. We see other family members, including Sweet Commander Charlotte Smoothie, who seems on board with whatever Big Mom decides, while the others emphasize that getting payback on Luffy is the big thing here. He insulted Big Mom's reputation, and so they gotta make him pay or the Big Mom pirates seem weak. Having a Yonko's crew wanting to kill you this badly is pretty crazy, and it shows how much of an impact Luffy's been able to make on this world up until now. Then, just as they're making it to Wano, Perospero remembers that it was around this point that King pushed them off the last time. He still clearly has PTSD from the incident, and it doesn't help when he sees something in the air. Could it be King again? But no, we turn the page and it's frickin' Marco the Phoenix, one of the few other Flying Zone users and former numero uno commander of the Whitebeard Pirates. I gotta say, when I first saw him on the page, my heart literally felt like it skipped a beat and all hype limiters were smashed. This is huge, but it doesn't stop there. Exactly like King, Marco knocks them off, so they can't make it to Wano. Will they even try a third time, knowing that they might just go through the same humiliation again and again? Worst case scenario, Marco has bought significant time, and he suggests that time will be enough, saying that the next time they make it up, this age of ours might look a lot different, meaning the Big Mom pirates will be too late for the fight. We then see Nekomamushi and Izo, both of who were former retainers for Oden and also served as members of the Whitebeard Pirates, especially Izo, who stayed and became the 16th Division Commander. Finally, we have the successors of the Whitebeard Pirates helping the successors of Oden's will. It would have been cool if Whitebeard helped Oden fight Kaido, but it's still very cool to see Marco and perhaps quite a bit more of the former Whitebeard Pirates here to help Luffy and Wano. Whitebeard and Luffy had a good relationship and Whitebeard wanted him protected, as did Ace obviously. So it isn't a surprise that Marco wants to help Luffy, and having a Yonko level crew for allies is beyond epic. Now obviously we don't know how many people from the original crew made it here after they lost to Blackbeard in the Payback War, but nevertheless having someone like Marco enter the mix is very significant. In a few pages, we went from our boys taking on 2 Yonko and their crews to only having to take on 1 crew and having the help of Marco and former Whitebeard pirates. This really changes everything about this war, and without her family there to talk some sense into her, we might be seeing more of Olin and less of Big Mom. Things are finally beginning to seem like they may not be completely impossible for the Straw Hats, and that's saying a lot considering they were planning on taking down 2 Yonko just a chapter ago. I really love this about Shonen. Some people might call this stuff an unrealistically convenient turn of events, but I view it as the universe rewarding Luffy and the rest for having the courage to try. I feel like in real life too, once you commit to a goal, you'll also get help from the universe you didn't see coming. However, when it comes to those who do nothing because they've decided their dreams are impossible, those people will obviously never accomplish their dreams and might even turn out like Apoo, and no one wants to turn out like Apoo. And that is it for this pretty long chapter review. I'm surprised by how long this one turned out, but it makes sense because there's so much to cover in this chapter. It was absolutely crazy with so many twists and turns. Things are really speeding up now, and I think we'll be in the thick of it before you know it. If you do enjoy these One Piece chapter reviews and want to keep them coming, the best thing you can do is smash that like button and share this video. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe, and this is crucial, ring that notification bell or you will miss future One Piece videos. Feel free to check out my One Piece playlist, link in the description, while you wait for the next chapter to drop, and suggest any One Piece topics you'd like to see covered in the comments. Lastly, the YouTube ad rates have significantly dropped recently, so the help and support we're getting from our AnimeUproar patrons is now more important than ever. A very special thank you goes out to our patrons over on Patreon who help us survive these YouTube issues and who help make videos like this one possible. First and foremost, I want to thank the legend acknowledged by Lord Twigo himself, Efren, and the 1-tier patrons, the ones who stand atop all clans: Steven Ingrata, Alola Anatem, The World, Steelers, Acquire Respect, Pate Hefa, Jonathan King, Desi D, Brandon Aviles, Papa Smurf, The School Bus, Emperor Otaku, and Richie Martinez. And our Pro Hero tier patrons, the one and only Gilgamesh, Nothing But a Fan, Jason Wilson, King Zeldris, Anatoly Kazatsky, Angel Cruz, Cricket XP, Joe Stanton, Barry Gucci, Alicia Actor, Jessica Kayla Fawn, Hinokami and Water, Bonnie Parks, Zodiar12, Rathuan Deora, Tien Huang, Cynical, Kraken, Volga77, and Deadly Saint. Thank you all so much. If you enjoy our work, you can support more of it by going over to patreon.com/AnimeUproar and becoming a patron today for as little as $1. If you do so, you'll get your name featured in future videos alongside these amazing people right here, and you'll even get access to our private patron-only Discord, where we talk about anime life and, of course, dank memes. So check out patreon.com/AnimeUproar, link in the description if you're interested. You can now join the YouTube channel and support more content that way if you prefer. Whichever way you choose to support us, you can get the same great benefits. Thanks again, and until next time, see you, Space Cowboys.